Now we get to continue and jump right into section 2, variables on both sides. As we had examples earlier in section 1, we had to combine like terms, and now we're going to see the variable on both sides of the fence, the equal sign right here. So we have to figure out, okay, we've got to move the variable all to the same side of the equal sign, same side of the fence. So I'm going to subtract 5x from this side so that I can move it over to the other side. And 5x minus 5x here, that's going to cancel out and equal to 0. So 7x minus 5x, we can simplify that, can't we? Because those are like terms. And so we get 2x equals 16. Well then, simple enough, right? Divide by 2 so that your x is by itself. And then x is going to equal to 8. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Then we can plug, now it says solve and check, right? So if x is 8, I'm going to plug 8 back into x and see if this is correct. Does this equal 7 times 8? And then here, 5 times 8 plus 16. Does that give me the same thing? Does 56 equal to 16 plus 40? Why, yes it does. And there you have it. So 8 is our answer for x, and you have solved and checked this problem. Okay, the next one here, you have x on one side, then you have a 8x plus 5. Now, let's see what we can do with this one. We're going to move the 8x over to this side of the equation. So that 5 is by itself. The 8x minus 8x will equal 0, right? So now, and then x minus 8x is going to give me negative 7x. And that's equal to 5. How do I get x by itself now? I'm going to divide by negative 7. And then so my answer actually is going to be negative 5/7. So now I need to take this to check. I need to take this negative 5/7 and plug it back in to my equation here. Okay, so 8 times negative 5/7 plus 5, does that equal negative 5/7? Because this is x. Well, you multiply 8 times 5, and that's going to give me 40, right? And the denominator stays the same. And then here, I'm going to convert 5 to a fraction over 7, because then I have a common denominator. 35 divided by 7 gives me 5. Or if you say 5 times 7, that's going to give me 35. Okay, so now I can subtract these two fractions. And does that equal the same thing? Why, yes it does. So I have negative 5/7 is equal to negative 5/7. For this next equation, we have like terms on both sides. So we have to decide, do you want your x's on the left and your numbers on the right, or your x's on the right and your numbers on the left? That you can decide what would be easier for you. Okay, so for here, we're going to move the x's over to the right side and bring the number over to the left. So if I subtract 2x from both sides, this is going to cancel out and become 0. Then I have 9 equals 3x, because 5x minus 2x equals 3x, and then minus 3. Then I can bring this minus 3 over to the other side by doing the inverse operation, right? Remember inverse operation? Minus 3, the opposite of subtracting 3 would be adding 3. And then that cancels this out, right? Becomes 0. And then 9 plus 3 now gives me 12. And that's equal to 3x. So now I need to divide by 3, because that will allow me to solve for x. And 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. And then I'm going to check. So if I plug 4 back into this equation, does it make this equal? 2 times 4 plus 9. 5 times 4 minus 3. Is that equal? Well, let's see. 8 minus 9, is that equal to 20 minus 3? 17 equals 17. Why, yes, it does. So there's your solution. X is equal to 4. Okay, now let's take another example here. We've got 7x minus 5 equals 3x plus 10. I'm going to bring the 3x over to this side of the equation, and let's see what we get. Our 7x minus 3x. That's how we get 4x. And I'm going to keep my minus 5 first. Here, 3x minus 3x, what happens with that? That cancels out and becomes a 0, right? So then all I'm left with now is 10. Well, then I'm going to bring this minus 5 and bring it over here. Remember, our inverse operation of minus 5, the opposite of subtracting 5, is adding 5. So minus 5 plus 5 becomes a 0. But I have to do the same to this equation, plus 5, or this side of the equation. So now I am left with 4x equals 15. And then x, to get x by itself, I have to divide by 4. And my x is going to be 15/4. And you can leave it like that, okay? Because now you're going to take that and plug it back in to your equation to solve or to check and make sure that you have the correct solution. So 7 times 15 over 4 minus 5, okay, 15/4, plug it in here, times 3, plus 10. Does that equal the same thing? So I have to take my whole number here and convert that into a fraction. Excuse me. A fraction over 4. 20/4 is the same as 5, right? And then 10 is the same as 40 over 4. Basically, if I multiply 4, each of these numbers times 4, and put it over 4, that will give me the fraction that I need. And then 7 times 15 is 105 over 4. 3 times 15 is 45. Now, 105 minus 20, does that give me 45 plus 40? And yes, because both sides equals 85 over 4. And there is your answer. 15/4 is equal to x. All right, now we have a little bit more of a complicated equation here. You have to use the distributive property on both sides of the equation here. So I'm going to have to distribute my 4 here, and then the -2 for here. And I'm going to end up with 4x. And then 4 times -3 gives me -12. On this side, -2 times 3x is going to give me -6x. -2 times 11 is going to give me -22. Now I can do the same thing like I had done with the other problems, other examples, and I can move all my x's to one side and all my numbers to the other side of the equation. And here we're moving the x's all to this side of the equation. I'm going to subtract 6x so that, or add 6x, because then this will cancel out and become 0. But this side I also need to add 6x. And then that's going to give me 10x. 4x plus 6x equals 10x. And then -12 and -22 stay. But now I have to move the -12 over to this side. I use the inverse operation. I'm going to add 12 because that will cancel this out and become 0. So now I'm going to have to simplify. -22 plus 12 will give me -10. And then I need to solve for x. So I'm going to divide by 10. So -10 divided by 10 is -1. Well, does that fit our equation? Does it solve our equation? So I have to go back and check. If I plug in -1 for our x right here, and simplify, then I have -1 minus 3. That's going to give me -4. And then times 4. Over here, I have -3 because 3 times -1. So I have -3 and then plus 11 and then times -2. So now I have -16 equals, this becomes 8 times -2. And yes, -16 equals -16. So now I have a solution. So the steps to solving an equation. First, eliminate your parentheses by distributing. Distributing a factor through the parentheses. Then simplify each side by adding like terms. Put your x's on one side of the equal sign and your numbers on the other side of the equal sign. Isolate the variable on one side, okay? Basically putting x's on one side, your numbers on the other side. Number 2 here was simplify each side, combining your like terms. And then x's on one side, numbers on the other side. Then undo additions or subtractions from the variable term. In other words, just simplify, you add or subtract your terms, and then you'll be able to solve for your variable. Undo the multiplications or divisions of the variable. Now you multiply or divide with whatever you need, whatever your terms you have. Okay, so let's take a look here. Okay, first, you're going to use the distributive property. Remember, that was the very first step. So my distributive property, I'm going to end up with -3x, and then -3 times 4 is going to give me -12, right? And then I have a -8. Here I have 3x plus 4, and then all I have to do is just combine the like terms here, right? So -3x is equal to, okay, -12 minus 8 is -20, right? And then 3x plus 4. Now I'm going to move my x's to one side of the equation and the numbers to another side of the equation. So we're going to bring this 3x and move it over to this side. So I'm going to subtract 3x because 3x minus 3x here, this is going to become 0 on this side. -3x here minus 3x is going to give me -6x. And then now I have to bring this -20 and bring it over to this side of the equation. So remember the inverse operation of that, of -20 is +20. So this becomes 0, and then 4 plus 20, I get -6x equals 24. And then I'm going to divide by -6. And then x is equal to 24 divided by -6, which gives me -4. And there you have it. So for 8.2, same thing. You're only going to have 6 problems because these are fairly simple and you've been paying such close attention. And so 8.1, 8.2 here, you can work both of these sections together, and I am very confident that you will succeed and do very well with these two sections here.